Welcome back to the West Ham Voice. Not my usual recording area. I don't know what the quality is going to be like. I've got the ear things on, so I think the sound is going to be okay. But I'm looking at the visual. I'm not so sure it's going to be wonderful. But I do apologise in advance if that's not the case. Look, I'm not my usual recording spot because I'm at my daughter's place looking after a dog. She's had to fly off to Italy. So I'm here doing dad duty, which means I'm not going to make the Southend game tomorrow either, even though I had a ticket for it. Anyway, let's crack on. It's not going to be a long video. It's going to be quite a brief one. It's going to be about Jarrod Bowen and about Daniel Kretinsky. And if you enjoy what you hear, what you listen to, there's a QR code in this top corner here. If you enjoy it, become a subscriber of the channel by clicking on that QR code. Takes you straight to the subscription page. Subscription is free of charge. So let me crack on. It looks as though one of the biggest questions surrounding West Ham this summer has finally been answered officially. I suggested it about a month ago that Jarrod Bowen was going to stay at West Ham United. And today, on Friday, it's been declared that he is indeed staying at the club and wants to lead the club back to the Premier League at first time of asking. Bowen told us that he flew out to Prague to meet Daniel Kretinsky, who's set to become the club's majority shareholder. And after those discussions, he's agreed to sign a new contract. Now, we don't know the detail of that contract, and we probably won't know what they are for a while. But personally, I don't think it's necessarily about adding another 2 or 3 years onto the deal that he already has, Jarrod Bowen. I'd be surprised if that was the case. He's 29 years of age. He's already got a contract in place until 2030, which will take him to the age of 33, 34 years old before he leaves. I actually think it's more likely that the contract that's been revised is more on the financial side. Look, I've never been convinced that Jarrod Bowen would be the only player exempt from the whole squad from getting a 50% reduction in wages because of relegation. And I think Kretinsky has pulled off a bit of a masterstroke in getting Bowen over to Prague and telling him face to face what the ambitions are, what the ambitions of this club are, and he will indeed, Bowen, be exempt from the 50% reduction. Now, I'm not saying that Bowen is motivated by money, but please don't misunderstand that. But for the major shareholder or the soon-to-be major shareholder, sorting out your contract personally is a testament to how much Kretinsky wanted Bowen at West Ham. And hats off to Kretinsky for not only getting Jarrod Bowen to agree to stay, but also convincing Nuno to stay on pretty soon after relegation as well. We heard from Nuno very, very soon after the end of last season that he was staying. I guess as an owner of a football club, if your aim is to demonstrate how serious you are about stabilising the football club after relegation, then getting the main people on board as quickly as possible is absolutely vital. But it says another thing about Kretinsky. It says that he has probably told Nuno and Bowen that he will indeed be in charge of this football club moving forward. You know, we're hearing about, the whole thing about share valuation, the shares that he wants to buy. He's already made it public that the Gold family are going to sell him something like 16% of the shares for him to get a 43% stake in the club, which will make him the majority shareholder, which will mean that David Sullivan is not key to decision making. Kretinsky has already laid out the plan about how the voting will go on matters that are important to West Ham United. He's already said he's got the other shareholders on board. All the shareholders agree with him. They're backing him. And he even went as far to say that until those shares become officially his, to make it 43%, the rest of the board are going to be voting his way. Basically, that kind of nullifies Sullivan's standing. Sullivan is still there. Sullivan still has a stake in this club. 38.8% doesn't mean he's going to walk away for nothing. But what it's saying about the operational structure of this football club, how this football club is going to be run from this moment on, it's all down to Kretinsky and his major individuals on board level that are going to take this club forward. Now, for him to have told Nuno that, and for them to have told the captain of the team, Jarrod Bowen, that, trust me, This is the way we're going forward. It's going to be better times, etc. Bowen has bought into it. And as a sweetener, if he's turned around to Bowen and said, I'm going to sort out your finances, then even better. So all fair and well to Kretinsky. It shows that movement is happening. I did say some weeks back that we're going to get frustrated for the lack of movement at West Ham. But you just look at what's happened since relegation. Brady left well before. Sullivan resigned his position. Okay, that had less to do with the footballing side of things than anything else, but nonetheless, he resigned his position at the club. So those two individuals who are, what's the word, who have been a hindrance to West Ham and progression over the years are out of the picture. Ninja, calm down. Calm down. It's a dog barking. So they're out of the picture. And keeping Jarrod Bowen is worth far more than saving a percentage of his wages and running the risk of seeing him leave. So, like I said, I don't think it's only about money. I think it's also about the fact that Kretinsky has told Bowen, trust me, I will take this club forward. I will do my very best to take it forward. I was just saying, the chronological of things that have happened. Brady gone, Sullivan gone, Nuno being kept. We've appointed Niels Koppen, the director of football recruitment. Things are progressing. The shares thing is going to take time, the legalities of it, etc. But in time, we will see that happen. Everything is moving. It may be moving too slow for us. We're a frustrated bunch. It may be moving too slow for us, but moving it is, and it's moving in the right direction. Look, I'd also imagine that the conversation that Kretinsky had with Bowen were probably already with the knowledge that the finances of the club were already secured. The whole thing we were worried about, we had £104 million loss at the end of last season, and there was a big concern that there'll be another big loss, etc. But I kind of alluded to it a couple of times. The business that we did last summer and the business that we did in January with the sale of players and the loaning out of players, taking players off the wage bill and the sale of players, etc., plus the pending sale. I think the Fernandes deal was done probably the last day of the season, I guess, when we got definitely relegated. But, with the pending sale of Fernandes as well, everything has gone to ease the PSR position. That will have given Kretinsky a little more room to make a gesture to Bowen about his wages. And that's probably what's happened. Look, of course, it's only my opinion. None of us know the full details of the contract, but I think that's the way the conversation has gone. Kretinsky has gone all out. He's flown Bowen out to Prague in order to say to him face to face, this is what I'm planning to do with this football club. Have faith in me. I want you to stick with me. I promise you we're going to have better times ahead. So Jarrod Bowen has chosen to stay. And I actually think that says quite a lot. For me, it's not just about keeping one of our key players. It's about what Kretinsky's proposal and Bowen's decision says to everybody else. Look at what we've done with our transfers. The one player that we've sold and we've stuck to our guns, 85 million or nothing. Now we've got Somerville, who's quite likely to go 50 million or nothing. Well, that's what it's looking like. There's a completely different regime at West Ham United. And not only is that going to change the perception of other clubs towards us, it's going to show that we're being serious about getting back into the Premier League at first time of asking. Look, football dressing rooms on the footballing side are no different to any other workplace. People watch what the leaders do. And if the captain of the football club is looking to exit, everyone starts wondering, well, then, if he's going, why should I be staying at West Ham? If the captain commits himself to this football club, it gives everybody else something to buy into. So it's slow burn. It's a slow burn, but we've got to be patient. And that's particularly important this summer because West Ham have indeed changed and they will continue to change and we will change quite a lot. I mean, now we've just got to sort the players out. And we've heard about Nuno saying, he's looking at giving the youngsters a couple of weeks to demonstrate whether they're worthy of staying in the squad. And that goes with some of the senior players as well. I alluded to about a week or so ago about all these players coming back from loan, the Fulkrugs and the Cornets, etc. They've got something to prove too. If they can demonstrate to. I mean, obviously they need to want to stay, but if they can demonstrate that they're good enough for the Championship, then Nuno's not going to go out looking for replacement players. If they can demonstrate in the friendlies that are coming up, got Southend and then Stevenage and then Magdeburg in Germany. Is there another? I don't think there is. If those players can demonstrate that they're worthy of being retained in the squad, then the changes to the squad are going to be minimal. That's no bad thing. Kretinsky has already said, I want to keep the core of the team. I want to keep key players. If these key players can demonstrate that they're good enough for the Championship, may not be good enough for the Premier League, some of them, but good enough for the Championship, then that speaks volumes. We've got changes. We've kept Nuno, where Sullivan would have sacked him straight away. We've got a new recruitment structure with the arrival of Niels Koppen, which means Sullivan's not getting involved in transfers. Daniel Kretinsky is about to take control of this football club with his increased sharehold. We've paid off the impending debt of £40 million to Barclays Bank. We've sorted out our PSR issues, so we're not going to be penalised in any way. We're now going to squad cost ratio. PSR is dead. Long live PSR. There are undoubtedly going to be player changes. There's no doubt about that over the next few weeks, with players leaving and new players arriving. But as I've just said, there's a couple of weeks now for these players to demonstrate what they're capable of. And I know everyone's going, well, come on, everyone else is buying players. We've got until the 1st of September to sort our squad out. So until then, whether fans like it or not, Nuno will use the players available to him to do a job until those squad changes happens. So if it means having to start, I don't know, Fulkrug up front alongside Tati, then that's what he'll do. If it means if Somerville goes and he's got to play Cornet out on the left-hand side, then that's what he'll do. But if those players are not delivering, we've got until the 1st of September for Nuno to make the changes along with Niels Koppen in the squad. But the one thing Nuno won't have to worry about is to find a new captain. So having your captain publicly saying, I'm staying because I believe where this club is heading, is a really positive message. I think it kind of helps to retain other key players as well. If you're trying to convince players to join a Championship club or to stay in a club that's just been relegated, one of the first questions they'll be asking is, who else is staying? Well, now you can say the captain is the player that everybody wanted to stay, or most people did. That immediately makes West Ham a more attractive proposition to players that we're targeting. It also sends a message to players already at the club. We spent most of the summer talking about who's leaving, Somerville, Wan-Bissaka, Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, Fulkrug, Dinos, etc. The list goes on. But now I'm saying Bowen is staying. Suddenly it means that other players might go, well, so will I. Players will still move if the right offers come in, if it's right for West Ham to move them on, but it does change the mood. Instead of everyone expecting the best players to disappear after relegation, West Ham have managed to keep one of their biggest ones. Significant. Now, I also think it helps the youngsters, the likes of Scarles and Kante and Marshall and Myers and various others. These lads are trying to establish themselves in the first team. There's other ones on their shirt tails, Callum Marshall, Caelan Casey, Lewis Orford, all trying to make a breakthrough. And who better to learn from key players like Jarrod Bowen? No one questions Bowen's work rate. No one questions his professionalism. Nobody questions whether he gives everything for the shirt or not. Young players notice those things, and managers certainly notice those things too. Having someone like Bowen around every day can only help the development of these young players. Then there's us, the supporters. Let's be honest, the last year hasn't exactly been enjoyable. Relegation, questions about ownership, questions about finances, players linked to almost every club every other day. Difficult times. So hearing that your captain wants to stay rather than leave gives everyone a big lift. Not because it guarantees promotion, it doesn't. The Championship is far too competitive to make that claim. But if someone had asked any supporter a month ago if which player they would want to keep, Bowen would be one of the ones that would rank highly. Keeping him gives us a far better chance than losing him. Gives us a far better chance of getting back into the Premier League than losing him would ever do. And supporters have given the big thumbs up as well before Bowen made his announcement official. Only yesterday we found out that season ticket renewals have gone up to a staggering 50,000. That's even more than the number of season tickets we had last season. I don't know how many more season tickets are available, but at this rate, there won't be any room to accommodate away fans. I'm kidding, of course. But 50,000, and I dare say with the official news that Bowen is staying, it won't surprise me if that number increases over the next week or so. What I also find interesting is how this might affect the way Bowen is remembered in years to come. West Ham supporters have always appreciated loyalty, especially when times are tough. Trevor Brooking is probably one of the greatest examples of a player staying on after being relegated. He helped West Ham back to the then First Division whilst winning the FA Cup along the way. Is it going to be a cup year for us? Julian Diggs helped drag West Ham back into the top flight after relegation in the 90s. Those players built their reputations over many years, but football fans remember moments. And after staying staying after relegation, when you could have easily left, is one of those moments. If Bowen captains West Ham back to the Premier League at first attempt, people will remember that. If he then helps establish us back in the Premier League under Kretinsky's ownership, people will remember that too. It's funny how careers are judged. Had he left this summer, no one would have really criticised him. He would have earned his right to do so. But staying, he's given himself the chance to be remembered something even bigger than the Conference League final that he won us a few years ago. He's got the chance to become one of those players that future generations will talk about. They'll talk about someone who stood by the club when we needed him most. I also think it kind of tells us something about Kretinsky. Plenty of promises, heard a lot about ambition, we've heard a lot about long-term plans, but supporters don't judge owners by what they say, they judge them on what they do, which is why the previous incumbents were so much hated. And if one of the first major decisions under this ownership has been making sure Bowen stays at West Ham, then I think that's a very encouraging start. Of course, there's still a lot of work to do. The squad needs strengthening. There will probably be more players coming in and players leaving before the transfer window shuts. But keeping your captain and your best player is as good a place to start as you could ask for. I'd be interested to know what you think. Where does this rank amongst the best bit of news we've had since relegation? Do you think Bowen staying will encourage other players to remain at the club? And if the captain at West Ham gets us back to the Premier League, do you think we'll eventually be talking about him in the same breath as players like Brooking, Bonds maybe? Let me know your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel on that QR code, and hit the like button, hit the bell notification, hit the hype button, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.